Let me talk to you.
Yeah!
Hope everyone's doing all right. If this is your first time checking out these Bloodline videos, what's up? Now, I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. I'm going to shoot it off the hip because I know we missed out a week from the draft on that one SmackDown. Some events did take place in the proceedings and the advancement of this storyline overall, but what we're really going to talk about is what happened at Backlash. The one thing I'll mention from the SmackDown draft episode was that Paul Heyman announced that Roman Reigns was actually pulling himself from the draft itself, which is kind of weird, but I guess because it's Roman Reigns and, you know, he is the tribal chief and the head of the table all day, every day, I guess he has that sort of pull, and I'm not going to question it because of what I just said. Now, the funny thing is, Solo Sikoa was actually getting a little ticked off and was wondering why Bloodline was not the first pick, and instead it was Bianca Belair, which makes me wonder if Roman was eligible, would that have automatically meant that he would have been the #1 draft pick yet again for like what, the third, fourth year in a row? But considering that Roman isn't around and there's no indicator as to when exactly he will return, I guess as part of kayfabe and all of the storyline that's being developed, both Raw and SmackDown did not want to take the chance and would prioritize other stars like Bianca Belair, like I mentioned, over the Bloodline, which after a bunch of rounds, they ended up being like 3rd round picks or something like that, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Fast forward a little bit, and Paul Heyman actually reveals that he lied. You see, he wasn't the one that was reporting on what Roman Reigns wanted to do, aka pull himself out of the draft. He actually did it on his own accord, meaning that Paul Heyman hasn't been talking to Roman this entire time, which he later confirmed in that same segment that he hasn't been talking to him and he misses him. And along with the "We Want Roman" chant or "We Miss Roman," Paul Heyman literally agreed with the whole crowd and said, "I want Roman Reigns too." Pause. So now we're finally at Backlash, and Backlash is, for what it's worth, a B show that was, you wouldn't think it was a B show off of that crowd, but we're not here to talk about France. The show started off with my most anticipated match. I wasn't looking for no title matches this time around. As you already know, we're out here following the Bloodline Saga, and rightfully so, they started off the night with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton versus Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa, and the match didn't even officially start. They couldn't even hold these guys back into their own corners. So Nick Aldis made the right decision, great general manager, and he decided to just make this a freaking no holds barred, no DQ match. And we got the street fight that honestly was appropriate for what was going on with all of these characters. The match was action-packed, a lot of things going back and forth, a lot of offense on both sides. It looked like there was a few moments where the Bloodline would have actually lost, and here is where a big curveball got thrown our way. Originally, if you've been following these videos or any news reporters covering wrestling in general, you would already know that Jacob Fatu was already confirmed to have signed with WWE. And if you know who that is, I mean, he had a last name Fatu and you're still watching this video, you know who that is. He is yet another family member in this never-ending family. But Jacob Fatu was not the person to make the save. In fact, and instead, it was the brother of Tama Tonga, Tanga Loa. WWE officially has the Guerrillas of Destiny in the company. And for what that's worth, that's freaking awesome. That's super hype. I know that Tanga Loa was definitely in the conversation from whom WWE could pull or whom they could get that are related or direct family members that would fit in this Bloodline storyline like a glove. But it actually makes way more sense to get Tanga Loa before you're gonna bring in Jacob or any other Bloodline potential member at that point. Because now that we have Tanga Loa and Tama Tonga, two brothers, this is literally a mirror of what Roman did first. And I cannot stress that enough because that has been an ongoing theme ever since Solo became this faux leader, this faux head of the table, this proxy head of the table ever since Roman lost at WrestleMania. He is literally going step by step, trying to walk in his shoes, essentially doing what Roman did. He is forming this grandiose bloodline in his own image, but it is more savage, more ruthless. And it is so exciting to finally see this. When you think of it in hindsight, I'm actually glad that they're holding off on Jacob because he will definitely make his debut sometime soon. Maybe at the next big PLE, maybe they're gonna hold off even a little bit more. But I think how they're giving us little trickles as time goes on is perfect. I wouldn't change anything about this at all thus far. And what makes it even better is at the time of this video, I'm even more excited going into this Friday's SmackDown because I'm gonna be there live. So if you're watching, try to find me on TV and then let me know in the comments on this video. What else is there left to talk about? The obvious, we're gonna eventually get the Guerrillas of Destiny and Tonga and Tanga Loa against the Usos. It's gonna be that much sweeter. And I want to make one prediction and then I'll let you guys go. You see, I really think that they're going to try to have Solo build this big ass bloodline faction. And who knows, WWE, for all we know, they could have signed Jacob Fatu. They could have signed Hikuleo as well. And shit, they might have even brought up some other Fatus hiding under a rock somewhere or whatever, and some other Samoans that we don't even know yet. The point is, I feel like what's going to happen in this story ultimately is at some point in time, Solo is going to overwhelm SmackDown to the point where it is history repeating itself, and yet it feels like it's worse than the first time around. And eventually, Jay will rekindle his relationship with Jimmy, but even they won't be enough. And who knows, they might have a wild card in there, but I'll leave that for later. And they're gonna save Roman Reigns for the absolute last person to make their triumphant comeback. The Rock might even side with Solo in this time, but we'll see where The Rock plays into all of this. But I imagine he would be on the side of Solo because that is who I think could realistically be this tribal chief. Because so far, when you look at all the footage and look at all the segments that have happened, Solo is clearly acting in as the current leader and the head of the table and tribal chief of the bloodline, but not once has he said it out loud. I think that they're saving The Rock to be this true leader. I know in a previous video, I also mentioned that there's a chance that it could possibly be Cody Rhodes too, which would be a crazy swerve, but there's evidence of that. Check out my previous videos. But all in all, this is literally to set up Roman's big return, and it's going to be amazing when it happens. And also, the one other thing that I want to mention from Backlash that took place after the match and the debut of Tanga Loa was a backstage segment where Jey Uso was getting ready for his World Heavyweight Championship match, and the Bloodline crossed paths with Jay. Solo gave Jay a look. He gave his new brothers a look, and they kept it moving right on past him. And Paul Heyman gave Jay the most sorrowful, empty, yet fulfilling, no response ass look that you could literally tell a whole story just by how he was looking at Jey Uso without even saying a word. And this is how crucial of a character Paul Heyman is in all of this. He wants Jay to come back and to somehow salvage and save what is currently going on with this bloodline. He has no control. He is the wise man, but he's trying to watch his ass for the most part because it wouldn't be wise otherwise. Right now, Paul Heyman is in pure survival mode and he's just kind of rolling with it. And you can even tell when you look at any of the matches that Solo or the rest of the bloodline is a part of, is like timid. I mean, he even tried to cancel this tag match between Kevin Owens and Randy Orton and them for their own safety, which is kind of crazy to even think of it like that. I really can't emphasize this enough. The look that he gave Jay is like, oh my God, you know the seeds are really getting planted. I mean, they already been planted, but I feel like we're going to start seeing some sprouts sooner than later. but how it will all play out and how it'll come to be, because unfortunately Jay did lose his world heavyweight title match, and to be honest, I really didn't see him winning it either. And a lot of people predicted that he was gonna get screwed over by a Jacob Fatu, but no, he actually just got screwed over by the Judgment Day. And before I forget, back to this whole Roman Reigns triumphant thing. Roman's gonna make a huge comeback. He's gonna be realigned with the Usos. It's just gonna be the three of them, and who knows, maybe Paul will feel safe enough to actually just go right back to where Roman's at, but they will be overwhelmed. Solo will have more to his side of the bloodline than where Roman is at, especially if Solo has The Rock on their side. And it's gonna take one Sami Zayn to really tie this all up and make this feel so much more special than how we're all imagining it in our heads. So that was pretty much it. We now have Raw to look forward to see if there's any developments on Jay's side of the story. At this point, I believe the draft, once this video goes out and Raw happens, the draft selections will have been locked in. So it's, I mean, Jay's still on Raw, Bloodline still on SmackDown, but I don't really think that whenever WWE has a bigger story to tell, they don't let their own rules get in the way. So we'll see what happens. And again, I will be at this week's SmackDown to see the development of the Bloodline Saga in person. So I'll actually be able to see the Guerrillas of Destiny in the WWE for the first time on a live show in the US under the WWE moniker. Because there was actually, and I think about it, I actually did see them at a CEO New Japan crossover show, and that was really cool. They were pretty sick to see live. But now that they're in the bloodline, like, oh my god, this is so crazy. So let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments below of the Bloodline Saga thus far. What are you guys' predictions? How are you thinking this is all going to play out? And make sure you're taking care of yourselves. And remember to acknowledge your tribal chief. I'll see y'all next time. It's just me, Oos.